Everybody with Angela Williamson is made possible by Fireheart Pictures and viewers like you. Thank you. For over 120 years, we have enjoyed the art of filmmaking, from the first minute-long silent clip to an entire movie being produced using smartphones. Filmmaking has experienced tremendous growth and innovation. Tonight, we take a journey through the art of film. Our first guest preserves the silent film era, and the second guest has over 100 movie credits since 2007. I'm so happy you're joining us.
From Los Angeles, this is KLCS PBS. Welcome to Everybody with Angela Williamson, an innovation, arts, education, and public affairs program. Everybody with Angela Williamson is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you.
This is the first drive-in presentation of a silent film in Hollywood history. We have Cliff Ritalik, who is the musical director of retro format silent films. He's a brilliant musician, and we've got him mounted on top of a truck bed next to the screen. And he's improvising brand new accompaniment for the film as it unspools. We're showing Harold Lloyd's The Freshman from 1925. It's a brilliant film. Many people consider it Lloyd's greatest. Harold Lloyd is one of the three greatest comedians of the silent film era. This is one of Harold Lloyd's finest films. It's $75 per car, and you can bring the whole family for that. You also get free popcorn, free candy, and free soft drinks. So it's actually a great deal. Half of the money goes to the American Legion Post 43, and half of it goes to our nonprofit, Retro Format Silent Films in Los Angeles. And we're dedicated to education and creating enthusiasm about the art of silent film.
How does Tom start retro format?
Well, thank you so much for having me, and it's an honor to be here. Retro formats actually started about 12 or 13 years ago. I've been a film collector all my life, and particularly interested in the silent film era. And I was a little frustrated because one of the things I love about Los Angeles is there are so many opportunities to see rare and unusual films and films from around the world, and I felt like the silent movie era was not getting its due, and it's something that has always really been of interest to me and has appealed to me. And I started collecting films when I was about 12 years old on 8mm. Back in the day, which for anybody who doesn't know was a format that was used before VHS, where you actually had a little strip of film about that wide, and you could look at it on a small projector in your home. And I bought a number of films by mail order when I was a teenager, and somehow I ended up over the years, I continued collecting them, and I had several hundred films in my collection, and I was having these screening parties at my apartment, and once a month we'd have some friends over and watch silent films, and the parties grew and grew until eventually we were squeezing like 25 and 30 people into the living room. And I approached the American Cinematheque, which is a nonprofit that does retrospective screenings. And basically, it's like a film festival year-round. And they run the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood. And I suggested to them, because nobody is really showing a lot of these silent films, and a lot of artists who were very important in the history of cinema are being overlooked. What if we tried a screening using the home movie formats, 8mm and 16mm, and just put them in your smaller room. They had a screening room called the Spielberg screening room at the Egyptian Theater that seated 80-something people. And why don't we just do some small-scale screenings in there and see if people come? And I acted as host and projectionist and curator, and you know, it didn't cost them anything, so they were willing to do it. And we tried it out, and kind of to everybody's surprise, it caught on. And eventually, Cliff Ritalik, who is a wonderful accompanist for silent films, he is also a composer and an all-around musician, and just a great guy. He was already the house accompanist for UCLA Film Archive and several other very prestigious institutions. But he actually agreed to come on, and he donated his time and talent to our show, and that's when it really took off. And I'm very proud of what we did there. We ran some well-known films and a lot of really not well-known silent films, and with Cliff improvising wonderful music. And we started selling out, and we in fact completed 10 years. We had our 10th anniversary show right before COVID caused the theater to be shut down.
So, in your opinion, why do you think it's important for us as educators to know more about that? Because when we think about that, we only think about one or two actors, but there was a lot of people behind this extraordinary movement.
That's true, and well, the silent film era lasted for about 30 years, and during that time, not only an entire industry was born, but an actual art form was created, and a new way of looking at the world, a new way of communicating. And if you look at the history of the films and what remains, because you know there are only about 10 to 15% of films from the silent era that have survived until today, but we have enough that we can look at, and you can really trace the evolution of film narrative, of film editing, film language, whatever you want to call it, during that time. And it's really an extraordinary thing to be able to see concentrated into such a small period. And of course you also have the ways that people 100 years ago looked at issues that are important to us today. And sometimes that's very uncomfortable to look at, because you know, attitudes evolve, and sometimes they don't evolve. But it's I think it's really important to be able to see where we came from, and if we don't appreciate and enjoy the 10 to 15% that is still left, then that could potentially disappear too, because preserving it, you don't just preserve the films and it's done. The preservation has to be an ongoing thing, and each generation has to take it up. And so that's why our mission is to educate and create appreciation for and enthusiasm about the silent film period.
Well, and you created that enthusiasm by having your own film festivals, which unfortunately you had a remarkable film festival and then COVID hit. So I know you'll tell us when you'll have another film festival in the future, but I love the education part of it. How did you come up with a way to educate? I mean, we need to pour into the next generation. So how did you come up with a way to educate that next generation, and how does retro format fit into that?
Oh. Well, we are really still working on that and evolving that concept, but I do think it's really important, because you know, I started becoming excited about silent film when I was around 12 years old, and if you can turn a child on to art, and it doesn't have to be silent film, but music or oil painting or anything, if if a child, especially at that age, gets excited about that, then you actually never know what you have done for that person, because the arts contribute so much to our understanding and our enjoyment of life, and they give us so much pleasure and so much consolation. But I do know that the enthusiasms that I had at that age have stayed with me all my life, and they have informed me. I've kind of built on those. I like to try to build on those to lead me into other interests and other pursuits. But I think it's crucial to reach children at that age and just get them excited about something, anything. So we've been working with Laurel Magnet School, which is a public school in Los Angeles, and they just got magnet status about 2 years ago. They became Laurel Magnet School for the Cinematic Arts and Technologies, and I hope I got the wording of that right. But we came in right before they achieved that magnet status, and we actually, at first, we went into the classroom, fifth, sixth, and seventh grade classrooms, and we took a 16 millimeter projector, and Cliff Rutalik brought in an electronic portable keyboard, and we actually put on silent movie programs for the kids in the class. And you know, most of the children had never seen a movie projector before, or a reel of film, much less a silent movie with live musical accompaniment. And I think we really accomplished something, because they really enjoy the experience. And we've, of course, continued it on Zoom in the COVID era, which is not quite as good, but
it's still online, so
yeah,
that's important.
Yeah. I actually did a class session just 2 days ago, and it is always such a pleasure. We try to program, the classes run about 55 minutes, so we program a 25-minute film. It takes about 10 or 15 minutes for everything to settle down. We run the film, and then we have about a 10 or 15-minute session where the kids can ask questions, and they are so enthusiastic. And I'll never forget one of our first screenings at Laurel School with George Reyes is the teacher, and he teaches film classes there. We showed a film called Get Out and Get Under with this guy, Harold Lloyd, and the children were literally screaming with laughter at it, and a film that was over 100 years old.
Very important. Well, I mean, our time has just gone by so fast. I know.
Wow.
I know. But before we end our conversation, can you let our viewers know how they can support Retro Format, especially as you move forward and you're going into these schools? How can we support you?
Well, thank you for asking that. It's very easy. Just go to retroformat.org, and you can click on a little button that's, I think it says support us or something like that, and you can volunteer or you can make a financial donation. And we really do need help. This school program, we're just getting started. We're actually going to be expanding into working with a school for the deaf this year, which I'm very excited about. We want to reach out to high schools, and we need more people to help us with that, because we don't have the people or the personnel to expand the way we want to. So thank you so much for asking.
Oh, you're welcome. And I was going to say, that is a wonderful call to action. So I do. Tom, I appreciate everything that you're doing to educate the next generation about the silent film era so that we don't lose it, because it's so important, not only to the history of everything in film, but to our history in the United States as well. So thank you so much, Tom, for being here. And I can't wait to go to your next film festival.
I can't wait to see you there.
Wonderful. I will be there, definitely. And come back as I continue my conversation about filmmaking with Dustin Ferguson.
Welcome Welcome to America's Test Kitchen at home.
At home.
At home.
At home.
At home.
This year, we're bringing it all back home
Ta-da!
with great new recipes,
It's cheese time.
I hated tuna fish when I was a kid.
ingredients, and gear,
Here's mud in your eye.
and your favorite test cooks.
Today, I want to talk about my tank.
Cooking in their own kitchens. America's Test Kitchen at home.
It's really good.
Sharks! Another victim.
Hey, we're dealing with more than one shark here, and their genes are mutating.
Damn it, I heard enough about sharks.
This doesn't look good.
Tim, I know it!
Welcome back. Dustin, thank you so much for joining us in our second half of talking about filmmaking. I am so impressed. Over 100 movies.
Yes, insanity.
I mean, we're definitely going to talk about your latest movie right now, in a few minutes. But right now, I would love to talk about how you got into filmmaking. I know it's because you have a love of it because I read your background. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, I grew up in the Midwest in Nebraska. My parents were into horror films when I was young, so they actually showed me my first horror movies, Night of the Living Dead and Alice, Sweet Alice, and that really clicked something in me. I was really turned on by the artistic integrity of those types of films and being able to get a reaction out of the audience at a really early age. And I was telling friends then that I'm gonna grow up and make scary movies. And throughout my life, I had collected films, and then I actually, at the time, thought I wanted to open my own video store. So I had gone to college to get a business management degree in entrepreneurship. I did get that in the early 2000s, but I got an A on my business plan, but my instructor's like, they're all going out of business. Like, I wouldn't advise actually doing this right now. Mm-hmm. So I moved to another city and just got jobs in management until a few years ago, it sort of came back full circle the way that vinyl has, where there's like a collector's market now. So I opened up a video store in 2017 called Old School Video. And I had it for about 11 months when one day one of my regular customers, Mike Reeb, decided to buy the store so I could take the funds and move to California to pursue my dream as a filmmaker.
Wow. Now, okay, so you're coming to California. However, we know that the art of filmmaking when it comes to this genre has changed a lot.
It has.
It has changed. And I mean, in my head, and I could be wrong, so this is where you get to correct the host. I mean, I see the big change come with the Blair Witch Project.
Okay.
But it seems like it's a turn since then. I mean, so you're a classic. So how do you not go with what's the trend and remain true to the classic and produce as many movies as you produce? And you can correct me, it's okay.
No, you're absolutely right. I think that it's an interesting balance, I think, to succeed. It's sort of like the old school filmmaker group, in the new school. I think that the reason some people are falling behind is because they're not willing to go with the digital age. And that's part of it. I started when analog was still happening, when people were still shooting on film and mini tapes, and now people are shooting on cell phones. And it's like a whole different world. But the way that you stay relevant is to always stay in the now. I think that every independent filmmaker should look into learning business because it's about marketing yourself these days. In the days of social media, Facebook especially, anybody that knows me knows I'm just all over Facebook. I'm my own cheerleader because you have to be. You have to stay relevant. Things are fast paced now. There's TikTok and Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and kids will forget about you tomorrow if you're not posting. And so I think that having that business sense has really put me in tune with advertising and making it a product. Because I think if I want to stay a filmmaker and keep making money, I have to look at it like it's a business.
And that is such great advice because there are so many film festivals out there now that there's a growth of independent filmmakers, but they don't realize that there's more than just creating your art. There's the marketing and the selling of your art as well.
Yeah, I mean, you have to find a group of people that want you to succeed and then cater to those people so that they stick around. That's what social media is great for. You know, you build friendships and relationships with the people on there, and they want to support you. Every movie you make, they're going to buy. And then that's guaranteed every time when you can do that with your fans. And you mentioned like defending the work, definitely in the beginning of my career. I think everybody does. It's like, what was that? You know, people watch your movie. But I mean, that's the foundation. That's when you're figuring out who you are as an artist and what works and what doesn't. And I think at this point, after 100 films, the people that watch my movies know what to expect. It's sort of an acquired taste, and that's, I think, what makes you a standout artist.
Well, and it also too gets you a loyal following.
Exactly.
So they know what to expect, but they're always there to support you. And that's really important, especially you mentioned with social media, is that you have to have those loyal followers because you can easily lose them with the next phase.
If I stop making a movie for 3 months, who's Dustin?
Exactly.
You know, and it's like I have to have trailers and artwork and release dates to always just keep people excited. That's what I'm a big about, is creating that excitement that existed back then when something new was about to come out and you could follow. I like putting out the teaser posters before we even shoot a movie, so people are already getting excited for it, so then they're invested in the project before it even happens.
I'm getting advice from you, so I love this. But you talked about trailers. So before we came into the segment, we showed your trailer for your latest film. How did you come up with this idea? And then, I don't know, you probably already know this, but we have Mel as a guest on the show.
I heard that.
Yes,
yes.
I mean, it's such a small world.
It is. I was just saying that to your producer.
Yes, it's such a small world. So how did you come up with this theme? And I mean, I've seen other ones that sort of look like this. So how did you come up with it?
This is all about, I'm in California now, I'm gonna make a Californian movie, Sharks. And so, you know, I'd done so many movies. My 50th film in Nebraska was when I decided to move here. And so, of course, it all has that sort of Nebraska Midwest look to everything. I come out to California, and the first thing I have to do, because I love shark films, is a movie set at the beach. And so that's what this was. It was a film I ended up doing independently that then I sold to Wild Eye Releasing. And they ended up, you know, releasing it to stores everywhere, and we're actually beginning production on part 2 now.
Wow, and so series is very important.
Yes.
Sounds like.
Oh yeah, I mean, because you build a following, like especially with the first one, then that's guaranteed they're going to see all the sequels. You know, and I've done that with almost all of my stuff. I think as an independent person, I take like the Roger Corman approach, where I'm trying to build an empire, try to brand your stuff, and so that it's recognizable. Like, I have a franchise called Meat Hook Massacre. We've done 8 films. The series is done, but now I have a TV show that starts airing next month on WGUD TV by Tim Thomas.
Okay.
And it's just our next step in evolving the work. So then that way it's available everywhere. It's on TV, it's on streaming, it's just anywhere you look, you can't escape it.
And I see that could be a major, and I hate to say flaw, but maybe as a shortcoming of a lot of independent filmmakers, because they don't realize you need to hit so many different areas for your film to be successful. Because we hear those stories. We hear those stories of, I'm thinking Fatal Attraction, that started out as a short in a film festival, and then all of a sudden it becomes a feature film and it's so popular.
Right.
We don't realize that there's more work behind than just creating the art.
Yeah. No, exactly. I think that, like I was just saying, you need to, once you have your audience, you need to be able to hold on to them, because those are going to be the people that take you always ahead, you know, and then you're just building upon that. With the sequels, more people discover the series and then get into it, especially with doing things like TV shows, because then that's a whole other market that wasn't maybe watching my films. They'll see the TV show and be like, what is this based on? Discover 8 films I've made. They're like, what? You know, and it just brings all these people in, and they're like, wow, this guy's done 100 movies, and it's like a rabbit hole. And that's good. You want people to become obsessed and support you.
And there's one more question I want to ask you about this film in particular. But before we get there, you talked about social media, and it just seems that with the biggest one right now, and all the kids and all my students, because they're like, oh, Facebook, what? But TikTok.
I know.
But it seems that your genre would be perfect for TikTok, because you could put little
We do little clips and stuff, yes,
So you do
definitely.
that. So how do you use that to find a whole nother following there?
Again, it's about exclusivity.
Oh, okay.
So it's like on TikTok, if you put something that they can only see on TikTok, then that's building that on. So you don't want to put the same trailer on all of the platforms. You want to have behind the scenes here, here's a clip here that's exclusive. On my live video, I'm going to show a clip tonight. You know, you do all of that, and then that really gets people excited. They're like, ooh, I have to turn in, you know, and see this certain thing that I can't see anywhere else.
Wow, I love that. Okay, so let's talk about this movie, because this is the movie we're promoting right now, and that is, you said Walmart will be...
Yeah, it's in Walmart right now, actually. You can walk into any Walmart anywhere nationally, and it's on the shelf.
Okay, so what makes this movie like your typical like horror flick versus something that you might have created something new to it to give it a different spin?
Well, what's interesting about this movie is the artwork was made by the distributor, and it has a certain look to it. It looks like Deep Blue Sea or something like that,
Yes,
right?
it does.
But the movie itself is actually satire, because I love camp. I'm all about camp. My movies are so campy. And so this is almost like a play on shark films. We have all of the stereotypes, all of like the regatta, the resort that's about to open, but there's shark attacks. You know, we have like the adult actresses showing, you know, their tops. We have all of the stuff that's in the shark movies, but it's a spoof almost. And I think that that's what's interesting about this film is the artwork is selling it like it's a serious, straightforward shark film. People watch it and they're like, what is this movie? But my fans love it. They know what to expect. But at the same time, being in Walmart like that, I just exposed all these people to my ridiculous work, and I hope that they get hooked.
They will get hooked. And I'm going to ask you just to educate our audience for a minute. Explain campy.
Okay, campy is, it's when you take a really absurd premise and you play it straight. Camp only is good is if you take it serious. So you would look at movies, classic movies like The Toxic Avenger, you know, like it's a guy that got toxic waste dumped on him, but he's a superhero. And he plays it straight, and everyone's real serious in the movie, and it just makes it hilarious. Camp can only be done that way.
Thank you. You know it's all about education
yeah.
here. So Dustin, before we end our talk today, what's next for Dustin so that we can, the fans of EAW can support you?
Okay, so I do about a movie a month, obviously with doing over 100 films. So I've got about 6 movies on my slate right now. The next one I'm doing is A Bengal for Christmas, which stars my Bengal cat, and it's a Christmas movie, my first Christmas movie. It's ridiculous.
That's how I found you, because
you know,
yeah, you know, we're all about Christmas
yeah,
movies,
I know,
so
right?
that's how I found you.
I was like, I gotta do a Christmas movie. And so I'm doing that. That's one of the next ones. And then I'm doing Apex Predators 2. I'm doing 2 more zombie films. I just did a movie called Hell of the Screaming Undead, and I'm doing a prequel and a sequel to that. And I'm doing Doll Killer 3. I think that those are like my next 5 or 6. So that'll take me into like February.
Wow. Okay. Well, I cannot wait to see what's next in all of these great movies. And you definitely have to come back.
I appreciate it. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we need to do another segment where we just talk about the genre itself.
I would love that. That'd be so much fun.
That's why I commit to you on TV, so you have to
Yeah,
come
now
back.
I've stuck. Like I'm not going to come back.
Dustin, thank you so much. And
Thank you.
for just your excitement about independent filmmaking and giving some advice to some of those independent filmmakers out there. You know, we are in LA.
Right.
Yeah, so thank you. So we'll do another show soon.
Sounds great.
And thank you for joining us on Everybody with Angela Williamson. Viewers like you make this show possible. Join us on social media to continue this conversation. Good night and stay well.